to THA Talks, for free thought and open minds.
And for freedom of speech.
Hello, I'm Paul Obitelli and welcome to another edition of THA Talks, the alternative podcast show from the UK. Our talks include news, conspiracy, spirituality, the occult, science, history, art, philosophy, religion and much more. If you'd like to check out our full archive, just go to www.thatalks.com to listen to or to download all our free content. And if there's anyone who'd like to contact us and give us some feedback, maybe you'd like to recommend a guest for the show, you can email us info@thatalks.com. And don't forget, you can subscribe to the show via our RSS feed, and you can also find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, and many other podcast directories out there. Hello there, thanks for tuning in again here to THA Talks. I've really been looking forward to speaking with the guest we've got on today. Now, I've told you recently I haven't been doing as much shows as I'd like. A lot of that is, I'm busy trying to earn some money, and I could try and sort of make some money out of the shows, but I don't really. I'm always happy for a donation or whatever, but I don't really want to make money too much out of it because it can affect the way you approach it. It can put pressures on that changes it, and you see it happen quite a lot when people start to earn too much money out of something. It can change it and stuff, and I'm quite happy keeping it as a project that I own and control as I like. Whether I invest money into it or not, it's something that I want to do. It makes me feel good putting some really good content out there. And although I haven't been doing as much as I'd like, I still like to think I'm putting some cool bits and pieces out there on YouTube and on our website and beyond for people to check out. And who knows what the future holds of it. But today we've certainly got one of those special guests on. Now we're going to be speaking with Freya Aswynn. Now Freya originally came on the show way back in March 2014 during edition 8, and it's a funny thing because a lot's happened in my personal life in that time, and I'm sure people that have listened to the show would have seen the roller coaster of the political and spiritual journey I've been through there, and David Parry when he comes on the show. So it's very interesting from that perspective, and I know that Freya herself has probably seen a lot happen in those years as well. Maybe she's seen and been there and done it a lot more than I have, so maybe it's not as new to her as it is to me. But it's quite interesting for me, and I'm fascinated to speak to her. There's been some controversies that I'm sure we're going to speak about, and just the general play of where we are now. She's got a world of experience, and anyone that's read her book, Leaves of Yggdrasil, highly influential book if you're studying the runes and so on. So without any further ado, let's go and speak with Freya. How are you doing, Freya?
Hi, I'm doing fine.
Thank you for coming on the show. I've been looking forward to having you back on the show for a long time now. I can't believe it's been about 5 years since you came on before, where you were one of our first guests, and here we are now. Obviously, there's been some controversial things that have gone on in the movement over the last year or so, and you've been involved in that. What's your take on it at the moment, the state of the heathen community?
Well, I really haven't got much to do with the heathen community. I lost interest some time ago, focusing on my own esoteric development.
So you'd say, obviously what we seem to be seeing at the moment is, it's always been there. You've got the very sort of universalist, what they like to call themselves, and then you've got the more folkish, and it just seems at the moment they're probably more divided than ever. Would that be right?
Yes, certainly in the States.
I'd say definitely in the UK as well.
Oh really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's funny enough. It seems to be nowadays the groups that perhaps would be known as the tolerant sort of liberal side, they seem to be the
intolerant ones and going overdrive. They're going Nazi hunting. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Well, that's just it. I mean, yeah, it's and it doesn't do the whole movement any good, because at the end of the day, it needs the nature of heathenry is that there's several tribes, people doing their own things, and there's no real clergy. But it seems to be that sometimes there are people battling to be that clergy.
It's going the way of all flesh, power, and money.
And I know you had a run in with, was it the Troth they're called nowadays?
Yeah. Well, what happened was I was pretty vocal on Facebook. I shared a few memories to do with the Muslims mainly, and the pedophile grooming, and various other crimes, and the incursion on our countries, and things like that.
Yeah. Well, there's
and basically I got excluded because I wasn't inclusive enough. Now I really can't. I can understand inclusiveness. I have had many events and workshops all over the world, and I have never not included gays or black people. There's plenty in New York who can vouch for this. No, this was against Muslims and pedophiles. But they're so over the top. Muslims have nothing to do with our religion. Why should I have to be inclusive of them? And I've never spoken out against LGBTQ, but yeah, I have spoken out against the P, and vociferously so. That's the reason they started accusing me of, oh, you got to go back on my timeline forever. This is over 6 months ago. First accusation was I was non-inclusive. Then it was racist, Nazi, outbreaker. I don't know, a lot of different things. They have some kind of loyalty oath they expect people to swear to. Basically, it's an obedience oath, really.
Yeah.
You accept inclusiveness, but they decide what is to be included. Do you understand?
Oh, absolutely, I do, yeah.
And of course, I said, look, if I am wrong, objectively, I'm happy to be corrected, but I will not be dictated to. Since then, they started persecuting other prominent pagans for being friends with me. A very, very dear friend, I won't tell her name, was excluded from events, paid events. People were trying to boycott her events and her business. So eventually I befriended her, and I explained to her, I said, look, this is costing you too much. I am going to befriend you.
It's disgusting, really, isn't it? It really is.
This woman was losing her livelihood.
Yeah. Oh, I can believe it. That's what they do. They like to isolate people. So if anyone talks to you, they have to then be, in commas, a Nazi, as the rhetoric comes out. And so they want everyone isolated so they can just, and funny enough, isn't that where the word pagan come from? So it's almost like we're the ones really being treated like pagans, and they're acting like the old Christians or the Roman Empire that used to ostracize and push these pagans that were those of the heath. Those were not of our society, you know?
No. It's cultural Marxism infesting everything. Bugger all to do with Christians or Jews. It's cultural Marxism. Full stop. Now, the woman I'm talking about, before she was a high-profile safe corner, she was a well-trained voodoo mambo. She's hanging around. She includes everything. She loves the whole world. But simply because being friend of mine, she was persecuted and hounded out of various communities. And I have a fair idea she ain't the only one.
Yeah, it's well, have you spoke to any of them, you know, the people that done this to you? Have you kind of sat down and tried to have a diplomatic conversation, or have they just kind of the doors closed kind of thing? Yeah.
No.
It's I mean, the thing is, you've offered so much to the movement. You've written some fantastic books and stuff, and these people that are doing this to you, I mean, who are they? What have they really done for the scene other than promote inclusiveness? Which, who's to say that inclusiveness is going to improve the religion in any way whatsoever? You know, what is that?
It won't. It dilutes it.
Well, that's it. That's cultural, as you said, cultural Marxism, and their whole outlook. It's nothing to do with spirituality. It's political. We're seeing it in America with Trump. We're seeing it with Brexit. Yeah. Anyone that thinks this way, you're a bigot, you're a this and that, and they're doing it to a religion, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But this is what happens. People, whether they're universal or folkish, at that point is irrelevant. When a person makes a contact with a god force, be that Odin, Freya, Thor, or Wicca, that is what should predominate their every living moment of consciousness. But what happens? They get sidetracked in politics. They are listened to. All of a sudden, they are important. They enjoying it. And the gods come out of the window. And there, the void is then filled up with political bullshit.
Oh, yeah.
And that goes for both. You're either totally for the gods. The gods transcend this plane. They transcend the politics of left and right. They transcend people's bodies. What do the gods give a fuck whether you're born in a male or female body and wants to have it changed, or what hole you stick your dick in? They don't give a monkeys. And certainly they don't give a shit about the color of your skin either.
Yeah. Well, this is... I mean,
have interacted with an African god, Allegra.
Yeah.
And perfectly respectable. You know? But I draw the line at Muslims and Arabs. That's where I draw the line. End of.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I think when we're talking about spirit, like you say, like spirituality and politics and stuff. The thing is, I think I'm going to praise you here now, because I think I've said to a lot of friends, I think that you are actually a very diplomatic spokesperson for the religion, because I think you're quite prepared to tell those on the far right when they need to draw it in, but you're also prepared to tell those on the the extreme left universalist side of it. So I actually think your position is a very sort of diplomatic one, really, because you just come straight from the heart in saying what you believe. That's why I was very shocked to see that they'd try to ostracize you and stuff, because I think that you are pretty much a good balance and a good a diplomat, if you like.
It's only politics after all. 10 years from now, people will have changed positions. I started off as a lefty in the 70s. You know, I started off as a sort of feminist, but at that time, it was predominantly about equal pay. All the weird issues later, I got nothing to do with. And, personally, my highest objective is to preserve the integrity of the Northern tradition and to pass it on in the cleanest possible way to the next generation, uncontaminated by either Nazism or cultural Marxism.
Yeah, they're very menacing. Before we move on from the Islam subject, I'd just like to stress, because when you said that you posted something and they said, oh, you're not inclusive, and started acting all stupid, the actual thing you posted, if I'm not mistaken, was actually a story in Holland where a female politician commits suicide because she was gang raped by some Islamists who didn't like some of her politics or what she said about their religion. And this actually happened. And I mean, our media, I don't even think our media even reported it. And this is what you posted, that they had a big issue with you being annoyed about, right? Is that correct?
Yeah.
I mean, it's beggars belief that, you know, it's rather than be shocked and angry at that, what actually happened, they're angry at you for posting it.
Yeah, but this was because the woman in question was a member of the PPV, Geert Wilders Partij. If she would have been a member of D66, every paper would have been in flames about it. But because she was a member of a right-wing party, it just happened. Nobody got punished for it.
Well, all this ultra-liberal, if you can even call it liberal anymore, it's almost like it's a front to pretend to be nice, like, oh, aren't we lovies? It's very pretentious, I find, that this universalist movement and stuff. And as you say, the feminists, I used to be very obedient, would you say, with that whole movement. And it's only when you start looking at it differently and start questioning it, all of a sudden these lovies become a little bit more aggressive and not so cute and cuddly. You know, that's what I felt, and it put me off. Because I was into the whole Wicca thing. And I kind of saw it in that, and I moved back, and I went to Heathenry because I thought it had more of a bit more sanity to it, and it seems not.
Well, yeah, it's a religion with balls.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, what is your? Let's touch on folkish heathenry in general.
I am folkish.
Yeah, I mean, me too. I mean, it's like what you said when you talk about the heightened that the gods there. You know, there's nothing that exists in terms of the female, male, black, white. In terms of nature, I mean, my view is most religions come from nature, and the European nature is Asatru or Oddinism, whatever you want to call it today. And for me, like you said, I'm not going to close the door if there's a black guy that turns up. But what I will defend is it's our religion. It's the religion of the white people. That's like if you go to Asia, you get different religions and you associate it with certain ethnic groups. This is our one. And why do people think that's such a negative thing? Sorry.
This Asatru as a religion is undoubtedly an ethnic religion. But one of the highest virtues in Asatru is hospitality. And from that perspective, I welcome people who at symbol invoke a Greek goddess, their own personal patron. The woman in question happened to be black and an excellent medium. But, you know, this is about hospitality. I don't expect her to become a member of my group, but she is a valued guest.
Absolutely. You know, the gods respect people with dignity and respect as well. If I had a black friend or an Asian friend, this is where I would challenge some of the folkish right-wingers. And most of them do think this way. I mean, you get the odd extremist, or I'm not going to use that word, but I mean, you know, but you get that. But I don't see the gods would turn away if I had a black friend and I trusted him and he was part of my personal tribe as a friend. The gods would welcome him. So that side of it. But at the same time, I'd only have a friend that I could tell this black friend of mine and say, well, this is my ethnic religion. Come along and join us. Do you know that there's no? Why can't people embrace that?
Right. There's always the right of adoption by blood brotherhood. If somebody is that valuable, it isn't because they're black, they shouldn't be allowed. Because in the Viking, there were black Vikings. They may have started off as a slave, but by being brave and good fighters, they became up in the ranks and became Vikings.
It wasn't about including Africa. It was about including that individual who is trusted.
Individuals.
Yeah, that's it.
Yes,
yeah.
Individuals.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know there's probably a lot of people listening to this now that I've spoken to people that were very angry with how you were treated. And I think it's sad when you first said, when you came on and you said you're not really a part of the community. I think that's very sad. I think you should be a part of the community. I don't think they should be pushing you out. I think they should be the ones that let them create something new, you know, because you've done such fantastic work. So I hope that's just a mood you're in at the moment.
No, it's not. I'm diversing my efforts. I've had a belly full of yank wank. I am training Russians privately in my home, and I get paid €100 a day for it.
Well, then I can't blame you then on that one.
So fuck them.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's. I'd like to see where they think it's all going to really go, because I speak to a lot of people, and not even just in heathenry or paganry, just generally in society, people are getting sick of this ultra liberal sort of, as you say, cultural Marxism being rammed down people's throats. And eventually, I think people are really going to reject it, and I think we'll see a change, and I'm looking forward to that change, to be honest.
Oh, it will happen, because it has to. It's either that or we die out. We're only 6% of the world's population, and that's talking about white people in general. That's not talking about Asatru. I mean, look at the shit what's going on in South Africa.
Oh, terrible. And anyone brings it up and they're a racist.
Then they're racist. But nobody will invite them over for, nobody will. Only Russia is willing to take them in.
I think Australia have taken some as well. And I think the South Africans actually started a poll pleading to the EU to let them in. Say, look, can you start letting some South Africans come back to Europe? You know, we're really struggling out here, and they just ignored it.
Yeah, and this is the weird thing.
Yeah.
Decent people, Calvinist Christians they may be, hardworking people of a specific color, they refuse. And they bring in all those fucking sub-Saharan savages with high IQ, with low IQ and high testosterone. Why not take the South Africans? Or, speaking from Spain, taking the Venezuelans who are starving. They already speak Spanish. They can contribute greatly to Spain.
Yeah. Oh, there's no doubt about it. These people that are letting these people, they're not sweethearts. They have their own agenda, and people are just not waking up to this agenda, are they?
Of course they have an agenda. Yes, their agenda is taking over the planet, because we are the only ones who have the bottle and the intellect to stand up to it. Everybody else cowers down, except the Chinese.
Yeah, and Japan as well. Yeah, Japan, they would. I mean, they've got the same low birth rates as us, but they're just not letting in mass immigrants like we are. That's why it's not such a problem for them. And they have their ethnic faith as well, Shinto, and the ancient Chinese religion as well. One thing I'd like to bring up, because as I said earlier, when I was into Wicca and I kind of moved away from that scene and become more involved in the heathen side of it, the friends that I started to, and they're probably people that you've I'm sure you've interacted with and done rituals with, they'd kind of had a similar. Well, they were fed up with the politically correct brigade. I won't mention them because they're not on the show, and I'll leave them to mention this. But they were very fed up with this whole Loki kind of rocketry, Lokian worship kind of thing, and just the way they were being treated for rejecting it. Now, I know that you have a very sort of a cult outlook on the religion and stuff.
Yes, I am first and foremost an occultist.
Yeah. So, what's your opinion on the Loki, the whole Loki movement and Loki worship, and how do you view him as a deity? This could be interesting if we could just sort of touch on this point.
I view Loki primarily as a catalyst. If you see how he operates in the mythology, he is the one who disturbs the status quo. He is the one who creates change. He is the one who creates controversy. He is an essential ingredient in the pantheon. And you may as well say the Greek gods. Okay, look at the Greeks. Well, let's throw out Mercury because he's a thief and he is this and he is that. You can't do it. You accept a pantheon totally, or you don't. This is the bullshit about inclusiveness. I was there in 2012 by the throat when this thing was brought up about Loki worship. I was one of the people who spoke for inclusion of Loki as an integral part of the mysteries, end of. And the Asatru, what are they? They are the unrealized, undeveloped forces of nature. They can be worked with. They are the stones, the land, the mountains, the elements. They are primal and they need to be fed through a controlled, trained intellect to be useful in applications of magic. They are part of nature. They should not be excluded.
Absolutely. I think more so than excluding, I mean, certainly some of the more sort of folkish groups that I've interacted with, they're happy to accept. I mean, Loki is, as you say, a very relevant part of the pantheon and has relevance there. But it's more a case of that worship in itself, that if for those who will regard Loki as more of a central figure than Odin or Thor, that they think that that's a chaotic pathway, and it's ultimately that, I suppose, to you could call it the cultural Marxist pathway, and that's how they view it. And I mean, like with the Rocketru, it seems to be very feminist. Yeah, sorry, carry on.
That is not. I don't feel Loki that way with cultural Marxism and all that. I see Loki like in chaos magic, like a la Pete Carroll.
Yeah.
You know, he's perfect for chaos magic. I don't work with him myself because I am committed to Odin, end of. But I appreciate people worshipping Loki. And there's also some good sides, Loki. The creative, quick-thinking intellect on your feet. If you're caught in a tight spot, Loki is the one who gets you out.
So what would you say to those who'd say, well, right, you know, Loki was one of the key figures to push Ragnarok, which killed all the gods and done all this chaos that ultimately destroyed the...
But without Ragnarok, there won't be a resurgence. We are right in the middle of Ragnarok now.
Right. So it's basically a necessary chaos.
It's got bugger all to do with Loki. If anything, Surt is the one who instigated Ragnarok. Surt equals Allah.
Yeah. Right. Well,
that's all I say.
So another thing that I've personally been researching the Gnostic Gospels, which my colleague David Parry, who as you know comes on the show a lot with me here, he's very very much into that. And if he was here, I'm sure he'd be touching on it a lot. What's your views on that? Because obviously you could regard it as Christian, but very early Christian, which maybe it was what Christian was meant to be. Some would argue. What's your views on that? And is there crossovers to the heathen side of that?
I really have to plead ignorance to this. I haven't read anything about it other than a little bit of David Icke and his archons and reptilians. I really can't give a specific answer whether it relates to heathenry. I don't know. Right, I honestly don't know.
Okay, so we've touched on. Let's go back to Islam, and we're going to go to the threat that we see there. Now, I think basically, I mean, when we talk about the threat of Islam, some people listen and they think, you know, you're talking about a minority. Most Muslims are lovely people.
No. This is Ragnarok. This originates from the inner planes. The same way we feed our gods. When we worship them, we raise our body energy or alcohol energy or a holy spliff, whatever it is. Our attention is focused on the gods, and our attention is their nutrients. So what do you think is happening on the astral if you got a couple of billion Muslims with the ass in the air feeding that egregore? Think about it.
It's got a very it's definitely here, because the thing is, what people think when we talk about Islam is invading the West or overtaking the West. For me, when I see things like that, when I hear of a story of like the Formula One girls being banned, to me that's complimentary of Sharia law.
What is that?
What is it? the Formula One is you normally have Formula One girls, which is basically just it's like a show, lots of attractive women dressed up, knit with cars. It's kind of just that whole glamorous side of it, and it was part of the tradition that all the drivers would come off, and you'd see these beautiful women all stood in a row, and they've banned them because obviously the feminists said it was making women out just to be objects, this kind of thing, But ultimately, they earned great money, and it ruined all their careers when it was banned. And for me, that complements Sharia law.
That's disgusting.
Because the Muslims don't like that sort of thing.
That's disgusting.
Yeah. Oh, it happened. Same with Sadiq Khan, where he banned fat-shaming adverts, which was basically another word for if you have an advert where it shows a little bit too much of your breasts or whatever. It just seems anything that's complementary to the Islamic religion is happening, whereas our culture and the way we live, that's taking a second back seat, should I say.
Yes, because there's more of them than there is of us. Planet-wide.
In globally, I mean, in the Middle East, there are absolutely millions of Muslims. It's the second biggest religion in the world, and it's growing. So it's not being suppressed as a religion, as some people might think over here.
With the Moroccan border.
There are many nice Muslims, but the thing is, they're moderate Muslims.
They're either Ahmadi or Sufi. They've been born here, being Western educated, and they are Islam because that's where they were born into. They don't want to offend the family. But privately, they still may, they still have their brain intact.
Yeah. And so what do you, when you hear these, super inclusive, what on earth do they mean inclusive? As if you were criticising Islam, and not even just criticising Islam, but an extreme case where Muslims have done some really bad things.
Yes.
And they said that that's not inclusive. So what are they trying to do to the religion? Are they trying to make it a multi-religious religion?
No, I don't think they have. No. The divide between polytheism and monotheism cannot be bridged that way. No, parts of Asatru has been hijacked by cultural Marxism. And they are promoting Islam for now. I mean, within the next 10 years, of course, they'll have to wake up because Islam is not liberal.
To say the least, yeah. To
say the least. So it's already happening. That is on my timeline. I shared another meme about a confrontation in Birmingham between Muslim parents and teachers who are teaching and promoting a certain sexual agendas.
Oh, yeah, on kids.
Yes. So it's already shaping up.
Yeah.
Don't interfere and the problem will solve itself, if you get my meaning.
Well, there's a rare occasion where actually Islam, because it's obviously ultra-conservative, they rejected some of this cultural Marxist, as you said, where they wanted to push kind of LGBT on children, which, why on earth would you do that? It makes me angry when I think about that.
Yeah, well, they mostly seem to be white children and all.
The thing is, the Muslims, at least one thing, they know how to preserve themselves. They know how to not allow their children to be swayed away from their culture, their way of being.
Yeah, but they're grooming ours instead.
Well, yeah, that's definitely an issue there. But I think generally the way that our folk and the Europeans are so vulnerable at the moment and so self-destructive and not looking after, not preserving themselves from this, this mass immigration and cultural Marxism, I've always perceived it as it's the chaotic element of whether it be the giants, the Rockatru. It just seems to be, like what you say, it could be a greater...
Blame Loki, blame the giants. No, it ain't.
No.
It's just fucking people after power.
Well, there is always that possibility as well. I will concede that, definitely. So with regarding your relationship again with the community, have you fallen out with any good friends or anyone that you sort of would regard as close?
No, I don't. No, I don't.
That's good.
No. I'm still friends with, I suppose some people may have defriended me on Facebook, but I've got almost 2,500 friends, so I wouldn't even know about it if they did. So I don't know. I have only befriended people who become personally offensive. Not because of political disagreement, but they start slinging, there has been this disgusting slander, being put about because what I said, I could listen to because I am a big thief. Well, I used to be anyway. So basically, they cannot refute my arguments. So they just put the worry about the story about that I got Alzheimer's. Now, how low can you go?
Yeah, it's no integrity, and this is the qualities that our gods promote: integrity, self-respect and stuff. And they've got no strength. They really haven't.
No, but the funny thing is with these fuckers, I still got people in there who report to me everything what goes on.
You got your secret spies.
Of course. Look, I am the vulva. I am the folk mother. I'm sitting in a web.
Well, to be honest, it's about time it happened, because you need to get people with some cameras on their buttons and go in and film them saying stuff. That's what they've been doing to us. So we've already had hope not hate attack us. So if you've had hope not hate attack you, you must be doing something right. I'm quite proud of that one.
Hope is opium for the masses, and hate is a waste of time. Most emotions are, actually. I tend to look at things more intellectually. I'm not really emotionally involved. I don't hate Muslims. For what? I don't even know any. No, I hate what's happening in Europe. Well, it isn't even hate. It isn't hate. Look, the gods and the people form a soul unit. And once the people are wiped out, the gods will cease to exist. End of.
Yeah.
That is what I'm working for.
Yeah, it's definitely we can talk about the political side of what's going on, but I look at the control that the establishment, whatever you want to call them, have over us. It seems magical. It seems like they're up to they're using higher powers, because it's beyond intelligence. They're manipulating us so easily.
Absolutely. Oh yeah.
So I agree. The occult is probably the way out of it. We need to learn the reverse of what they're doing to us. Of course,
because they're all up to the neck in various occult practices. Not that I would fault anybody for that,
Well, I was disheartened, as I said, when I left kind of like the Wicca movement and the general neo-pagan movement and moved on a bit. I've recently become a bit more heartened, because I've met a few people in the movement that I would regard, if I didn't have a political conversation with them, I would regard them as quite liberal left. Even the conservative ones are quite sort of very liberal in their outlook. And I think there's more than people think that are in, got the common sense that we're talking about now. They're aware of what's going on and stuff. So maybe the movement has got hope. There's more people in there that are willing to speak up, but it's just difficult to speak, because you get the Antifa treatment. It's the we'll shut you down, we'll stop you speaking, we'll get you sacked, we'll do this, and it comes down to that isolation thing. They isolate you, and then they try to take you down, and they don't want anyone speaking against their ideas.
They haven't been able to take me down.
No, that's a good thing.
No, they haven't.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still doing what I'm doing. I'm not eating a slice of bread less. They can't. Because I am not just me. I'm connected with Odin, and he's the ultimate boss. They cannot take me down. They can shoot me. But that is the bodycon. The archetype, Freya Aswynn, is still there. I am already an idea.
Yeah.
The body is Ellie Hooischuur. At one point, that will go. But they can't take me down. They can't take me down.
Yeah, well, I mean, the spirit of Odin, I think, is definitely here is coming back with us now. I know there's a controversial way of looking at this. If you go into Carl Jung's archetype kind of image of Odin, that certainly rose up last century during World War II, which obviously is very controversial. But the thing is, it doesn't have to be a destructive force or even a militant force. It's just a powerful one. It's an awakening. It's a consciousness. So it can be moved in any direction, you know. But I do think in the actual heathen community, I generally believe there are forces, I don't even know if I'd call them that, to be honest, but a presence which actually wants to kill that they actually are trying to snuff out the religion more than anything.
Yes. Am I getting right? Do people try to snuff out the archetype of Odin? Is that what you're saying?
I believe so. I think that the ultra universalist, the ultra people that inclusive, I think that they're ultimately trying to attack the religion. I think they're trying to I think you mentioned earlier, dilute it to the point that it's just no longer got the substance there. You know, it's
yes.
That's what it seems to me. Anyone that truly defends it, you're regarded as a crook and someone that needs to be silenced. And I'll say this: when I was a Wiccan, it was obviously very secretive, and you know, don't tell anyone here because this. And it was like almost like as if they were an oppressed movement. I actually don't think they may have been years ago, maybe when you were involved in it, maybe. But now I'd say it's very fascinating.
I still remember Wiccan in Brighton and some fucking Christian slit the throats of a cat and took them over the fence. I've also known people who had their windows smashed in because they were Wiccan. Yeah. I also partook in a conference with Kilroy Silk in 82 about Wicca. And it was with the satanic abuse panic and all the fucking, you know. So yeah, Wicca was at one point, definitely in the sight for persecution. There's no two ways about it.
But today it seems like it's got a bit more of a fashion to it.
Most of them are just completely mainstream, so they don't get this anymore.
That's it, yeah. But I've literally, a friend of mine who does a blot every month, he had a typical Antifa type group phone up the venue that we used to use and say that this is the police and we heard you're doing Nazi rituals. If this is true, you're in trouble. So obviously the venue got uncomfortable. We lost the venue. It turns out it wasn't the police, but
yeah, well, we had that. We had that in 88. No, it wasn't 93. I mean, we were supposed, me, Boyd Rice, and all the people, Death in June, and Kurt 93, and Sol Invictus, we were supposed to do a gig at the Grand in Clapham. But the left put a bomb scare in. So it was cancelled, and there was all these people coming from every fucking where. So we all were directed to a Greek restaurant, and there was somebody there who directed us to the torture garden. And I ended up doing my shit in between people were whipping and all sorts going on.
That's more that kind of been a boring evening then, I would have thought.
It was wonderful.
Well, it's rock. It sounds like an evening of rock and roll.
Yeah, that was under the arches. Never torture garden was under the arches.
Yeah, and I bet Loki was definitely present that evening.
Why not?
Yeah. But no, I just think that there is genuine persecution in the heathen movement now. It's the only religion that I'm seeing around at the moment where people generally have to be secretive about what they're doing, and because otherwise it will be stopped. It may not have the legal means to do it, but it's certainly happening. And it shouldn't be. That's just very wrong. And what makes it even worse is a lot of it is being done by other so-called heathens.
Ah, yes, I see what you mean. But you know what? it's like this. The Universalists are spreading themselves out on a flat surface. But the folkies are deepening, going deeper and higher. They're going in the other direction. You understand what I mean?
Yeah, I think I know what you're explaining. Yeah.
If you look at two lines, a vertical and a horizontal one, the Universalists are reaching out horizontally by being universal and incorporating other things. But the lens and the focus of survival of the focus people is not horizontal, but vertical, direct, derived from the deep in the past, and we are the ones who will seed the future. All the others, they will get interested in something else in the next 10, 15 years. But we, and I'm now not talking about me inclusive necessarily, because I may not be around, but we, as a folk, we still there. And to go secretive and teach own is a very sensible idea.
Yeah, well, it's like, the Universalists kind of approach will eventually, by its very nature, will become something else. So it's by its very
out in some kind of soup.
Yeah, and that's perfect common sense. Yeah, it's very well put, and I agree.
We've got the tree Yggdrasil.
Yeah.
We've got the roots in the past. We've got the trunk in the present. And we have the branches in the future. And the roots in the past are the roots of our folk. And anything outside that is extraneous. It's just window dressing. It doesn't matter. It's like the spine. It is the folk that holds the tree. It is the tree that holds the folk. Wassail!
That's it. Wassail. Well said. Absolutely well said. We are moving towards the end of the hour. So are there any things that you'd like us to sort of touch on? Anything that you'd like to say and that you'd like to address yourself?
Well, yes. At the moment, as I said, I'm doing private tuition on the runes, not blocks, not symbols, runes, purely runes. And we are looking for a translator, a Russian translator, English, with knowledge of, if not the runes, any other form of occult metaphysical thought because of the terminology used. And this person will then be hired by a rich Russian, and they both come to Spain to take my workshop.
Okay.
And what is stopping it is we don't have a translator.
Okay, well, I can certainly push this show around to a few people and have them listen, and maybe, I mean, we get a lot of different types of listeners.
They can email me, or they can email me at faswynn@yahoo.com.
Okay. And I could stick that email, if you like, on the show link as well, if you want to.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, because, I feel, honestly, between you and me, that Odin is pushing the Russian connection. I've got about 5-6 Russians on my course.
Yeah.
All in the same span.
Well, they just seem to be a little... yeah.
Huh?
So, they just seem to be a lot of common sense. I mean, obviously, Putin is looking after his tribe, so to speak.
Oh, yes.
But
yes.
But, that's what ours should be doing. So,
Yeah. I mean, I don't care.
Yeah. No, I think, ours are basically paying the EU to own ours at the moment. Can you colonize us and we'll give you 39 billion? That's the state of the UK at the moment, and a complete embarrassment.
Oh, the Brexit. Yeah, well, I've got one thing to say about that. Although I'm not British, I'm Dutch, I live in Spain. However, I was attacked on that as well, having an opinion on Brexit. How dare I? But Brexit is totally the people who voted for Brexit, thinking to stem the influx of migration, have been conned because the Marrakesh Agreement is already signed. Brexit is obsolete.
Yeah, it's maybe a distraction in that regard.
Yeah, because even outside the EU, they can't stop them coming in because Theresa May signed the Marrakesh Agreement. So either way, you're fucked.
Yeah. Well, this is part of what I think is so important about heathenry and stuff, because if we're going to have massive immigration forced on us, we should at least be able to form our own cultural traditions and heritage and religious gatherings to preserve what we are in that environment. But that it's almost like we're not even allowed to do that. That's the worrying thing. Or they think we're not allowed to do it, should I say. Yeah.
Well, we should everything what's ever been, really, ideally, we should archive everything for future reference.
No, I agree. But so we'll leave it there. That's kind of where we are with the hour. I'll certainly put a link up to your email, and I really appreciate you coming on the show. And of course, you're always welcome. Any more unfolding of this stuff that's going on, you're always we'd love to have you back on the show to talk to us about it again.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Bye.